How many days have passed with you telling yourself, "I'll start tomorrow"? How many quiet mornings did you waste waiting for motivation to strike like lightning, only to find that it never came? See, that's the trap most of us fall into. We believe that the future version of us, the more focused, more disciplined, more energetic version, will somehow take care of everything we keep postponing. But that version never shows up unless you bring it to life, and the only place it can begin is here. The Stoics were clear: you don't control tomorrow, you barely even control the rest of today, but you do control this moment, the decision that happens right now, not in theory, but in action. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor carrying the weight of an empire, still reminded himself, "You could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow." He wasn't lecturing someone else, he was calling himself out. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we all need to do. Because let's be honest, we don't delay because we don't care. We delay because we're afraid. Afraid of doing it wrong, afraid of looking stupid, afraid that our efforts won't be enough. So we wait. We wait for clarity, for confidence, for that magical alignment of circumstances that makes everything easy. But here's the hard truth: easy doesn't come, not at the start. At the beginning, it's awkward, it's uncertain, it's clumsy and frustrating and slow. And yet, it's necessary. People often ask, "When's the right time to change my life?" And the answer is always now. Not next week, not after the holidays, not when you've read one more book or watched one more video. Now, not because this moment is perfect, but because it's real. It exists. Tomorrow? It doesn't. It's a promise that hasn't been kept yet, and might never be. You might tell yourself, "I need to wait until I'm ready." But readiness isn't something that lands in your lap. Readiness is built through action. The more you move, the more prepared you become. But if you stand still, you only grow more doubtful, more hesitant, more paralyzed by the idea of beginning. There's a deeper principle here, one the Stoics understood well. Life doesn't reward intentions, it rewards movement. Your goals don't care what you meant to do, they respond to what you actually do, and the distance between who you are and who you want to be. It's not measured in time, it's measured in action. That's why waiting is dangerous. It feels safe, but it erodes your edge. It teaches your brain that inaction is acceptable, that hesitation is harmless, and slowly that habit of delay becomes a personality trait. You stop trusting yourself. You begin to assume that you're just the kind of person who doesn't follow through. But the good news, you can break that pattern today, not with some huge leap, but with one simple act of defiance. You get up, you begin, you take one step toward the thing you've been avoiding. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. What matters is that it's real. Because there's something powerful that happens when you stop waiting. You reclaim your power. You realize that action, even small action, builds momentum. That discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you train by showing up, especially when it's uncomfortable. So don't wait for the right time. Make this the right time. Don't ask yourself if you feel ready. Ask yourself if you're tired of being stuck. And if the answer is yes, then stop negotiating with your fears. Start right now. Not perfectly, not confidently, but intentionally. Because life isn't waiting for you, and neither is your potential. Win the morning, win the day. There's a strange truth about life most people overlook. How you begin sets the tone for everything that follows. And your mornings? They're not just a routine, they're a declaration, a decision about whether you're leading your life or just reacting to it. The first moments of your day are sacred. They're untouched by noise, distraction, or expectation. They belong only to you. But what you choose to do with them, that defines the direction of your entire day. If you start your morning in hesitation, you carry that uncertainty with you. If you begin with intention, everything else aligns. The Stoics believed in mastering the inner world before facing the outer one. They saw each day as a battleground, and the morning as the time to prepare for it. Epictetus taught that the first task of the day is to remind yourself of what is within your control, your mind, your attitude, your choices, and to release attachment to what is not. But today, most people wake up and immediately give their mind away to emails, to notifications, to scrolling. They let the world decide their focus before they've even had a chance to think for themselves. And when you do that, you're not starting your day, you're surrendering it. Discipline starts the second you open your eyes. Do you stay in bed and argue with yourself for 5 more minutes, or do you stand up without negotiation? Because that moment, that small battle, it's not about sleep, it's about training. You're either training yourself to hesitate or to act, and each choice compounds. You don't need a perfect morning routine with 10 productivity hacks. You need clarity. You need a rhythm that grounds you, whether it's journaling, reading, stretching, or sitting in silence. What matters isn't the method, but the message. I choose control over comfort. Because here's the thing, if your day starts in chaos, you'll be playing catch-up until you collapse. But if it starts with order, with a clear mind and steady focus, the rest of the day follows that lead. It's not about being busy, it's about being in charge. We often think that self-mastery is something that happens in big, life-changing decisions, but most of it lives in small, repeated moments. The decision to wake up with purpose, the decision to face the day rather than avoid it, the decision to act like the person you want to become before you feel like that person. Winning the morning isn't a motivational phrase, it's a strategy, because if you can win the battle between the bed and your goals, between comfort and clarity, between delay and action, then everything else becomes easier. So tomorrow morning, don't wait for inspiration. Don't reach for your phone. Don't make a deal with the snooze button. Stand up, take a breath, and take control. Not because you feel like it, but because your future depends on it. Prioritize discipline over feelings. There will always be a voice inside you whispering the easier option, telling you to take a break, to do it later, to skip just this once. And here's the hard truth. If you follow that voice long enough, it becomes who you are. Feelings are important, but they're not always reliable. Some days your emotions will align with your goals. You'll feel driven, focused, even inspired. But most days, you'll feel tired, bored, unmotivated. And that's when the test begins. Because if your actions are only as strong as your mood, then your future will be at the mercy of your emotions. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't try to erase emotion. They simply refused to be ruled by it. Epictetus taught that the key to freedom is not to eliminate feelings, but to master your response to them. And Marcus Aurelius echoed this by reminding himself that if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it. That includes your own impulses. We often think of discipline as something cold and rigid, like a drill sergeant yelling at you to push harder. But in reality, discipline is kindness in disguise. It's your future self asking for help. It's you saying, I care enough about my life to make hard choices now so that I don't suffer from easy ones later. Letting your emotions lead feels good in the moment, skipping the workout. procrastinating on the hard task, ignoring that tough conversation. But each time you do, you strengthen the wrong identity, the identity of someone who gives in, who avoids, who delays. And with time, that identity becomes harder to break. But the opposite is also true. Every time you act with discipline, especially when you don't feel like it, you reinforce a different story, one of strength, consistency, trust. You begin to believe in your own ability to follow through. And that belief, that's power. Discipline isn't about removing emotion. It's about leading in spite of it. It's waking up and choosing to do the work even when you're tired. It's saying no to comfort because you remember what you're fighting for. It's sacrificing ease for meaning, again and again and again. And the beautiful thing is, the more you choose discipline over impulse, the quieter that weak voice becomes. You stop arguing with yourself. You stop negotiating every little decision. It becomes automatic, not because it's easy, but because you've built the muscle of integrity. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, lazy, frustrated, or scared, pause. Don't ask yourself how you feel. Ask yourself what needs to be done. Let reason lead. And act not because it's convenient, but because it's aligned with who you're becoming. That's what Stoicism teaches us, that we are not slaves to what we feel in the moment. We are the architects of what we build over time, and it begins, always, with discipline. Your life is built on your daily habits. We tend to overestimate the power of big moments, breakthroughs, lucky chances, life-changing events. But the truth is, the shape of your life isn't defined by rare explosions of effort. It's carved silently and consistently by what you do every single day. Your future isn't waiting on a miracle. It's hidden in your morning routine, in the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening, in the choices you make when no one's watching. Your life is not made of goals. It's made of habits. And the danger is this. While ambition feels inspiring, it does nothing without a system. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your discipline. We like to think we'll become who we envision by simply wanting it enough. But becoming someone different requires doing something different, repeatedly. And that repetition is where most people break. Because results take time, but bad habits deliver comfort instantly. And so, we settle. We drift. We repeat patterns, not because we lack desire, but because we lack structure. The Stoics believed in the power of daily reflection. They reviewed their choices. They examined their routines. They didn't just live, they observed their living. Seneca once wrote, "Each day acquire something that will fortify you against poverty, against death, and other misfortunes." That something wasn't dramatic. It was built day by day. Your habits are a mirror. They reflect your priorities, your beliefs, your identity. If you say health matters, but you eat poorly and never move, the habit speaks louder than your words. If you say you want success, but you sleep in, scroll endlessly, and avoid the hard work, then success isn't what you're chasing. You're chasing comfort, and comfort rarely brings change. But here's the good news. Just as habits can break you down, they can also build you up. One small shift, one intentional action repeated daily. Over time, it rewires your identity, and you don't just become someone who works hard. You become someone who doesn't even question it. This is why you have to protect your habits like your life depends on them, because it does. Your self-respect, your momentum, your future, they're all tied to what you repeat. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop chasing intensity. Build a routine that survives your bad moods, your busy days, your moments of doubt. Create rituals that don't ask for inspiration, they create it. Every action you take is a vote for the person you want to be. And while a single vote may not define the election, enough of them will. Greatness always requires sacrifice. Everyone wants to be great until they realize what greatness costs. We admire the results, the achievements, the strength, but we often forget the price that was paid behind closed doors. Not in money or fame, but in time, discomfort, discipline, and deliberate rejection of ease. The truth is, nothing extraordinary is born in a life built entirely around comfort. You can't grow if you always seek what's pleasant. You can't evolve if you never face resistance. Greatness, in any form, demands something from you, and often it demands more than you expected. We want transformation without tension, change without challenge. But that's not how nature works. A muscle only grows when it tears. A diamond only forms under pressure. And your character, it's no different. It sharpens when you do the thing you'd rather avoid. It strengthens when you walk through the discomfort you'd rather escape. Seneca said it best. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. The pain we fear, of pushing ourselves, of stepping outside what's familiar, is almost always exaggerated in our minds. But once we move, once we act, we realize it's not the suffering that holds us back. It's our avoidance of it. And the longer we avoid, the smaller we become. The Stoics weren't obsessed with pain, but they never ran from it. They knew that every time you avoid a necessary difficulty, you reinforce weakness. But every time you lean in, not to punish yourself, but to refine yourself, you evolve. Look at anyone you admire, an artist, a thinker, an athlete, a leader. They all have one thing in common. They gave up comfort to pursue something greater. They said no to distractions. They sacrificed short-term pleasure to protect long-term meaning. You cannot keep everything and grow. Growth requires trade-offs. Waking up early instead of sleeping in. Saying no to easy pleasures so you can say yes to purpose. Choosing silence and focus over noise and stimulation. Every decision that sharpens you will cost you something, but what you gain in return is yourself. So the question is not, do I want to be great? That's easy to say. The real question is, what am I willing to give up to become who I want to be? And if your answer is nothing, then don't expect anything different. The path to mastery is paved with sacrifice, not just once, but again and again. And each time you choose what's hard but right, you move one step closer to becoming unshakable. Comfort is the enemy of growth. We live in a world addicted to comfort. Faster delivery, softer chairs, shortcuts for everything. And while technology may have made life easier, it has also made us forget that growth doesn't come from ease. It comes from challenge, from discomfort, from doing what most people avoid. There's something seductive about comfort. It tells you you're safe, that things are fine, that you don't need to change. But comfort, when pursued without limits, becomes a prison, quiet, cozy, and slowly destructive. Because nothing new is born in comfort zones, nothing powerful, nothing transformative, nothing that leaves a mark. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. They deliberately practiced discomfort, sleeping on the floor, walking barefoot, fasting for days, not because they wanted to suffer, but because they wanted to remain free. Free from the illusion that comfort is the goal, free from the trap of needing everything to feel good in order to function. Seneca asked, "Set aside a certain number of days to practice poverty, to live on the scantiest of fare, and then ask yourself, Is this the condition I feared? Because when you prove to yourself that you can thrive without the extras, you stop being afraid of losing them. You stop being weak. Comfort whispers, you deserve a break. Growth responds, you deserve better. Comfort says, not today. Growth says, this is exactly when it matters most. And every day you're choosing between the two. In your habits, your thoughts, your reactions. The hard truth is this: if everything you do feels easy, you're probably not evolving, you're repeating. And repetition without elevation is stagnation. Real change doesn't feel like a celebration. It feels like resistance, like discomfort, like doubt. But if you stay in it long enough, if you stop trying to escape every hard feeling, something powerful begins to form: resilience. And resilience is what separates those who stay average from those who rise. Not talent, not luck, just the willingness to be uncomfortable, consistently. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did something difficult on purpose? When was the last time you leaned into the thing you feared instead of running from it? If the answer is, I can't remember, then maybe comfort has stolen more from you than you realized. It's time to take it back. Not all at once, but in small, bold steps. Say no to the easy path. Say yes to the hard one, the one that tests you, because that's the only place growth lives. Small wins every day make the difference. When we imagine success, we often picture a single defining moment, the dramatic transformation, the viral leap, the everything changed overnight kind of story. But real growth, the kind that lasts, rarely feels like that. It's quieter, slower. It looks more like repetition than revelation, more like steady movement than sudden miracles. Because the truth is, greatness isn't built in grand events. It's forged in the unnoticed victories, the mornings when you get up early, even though you don't feel like it. The afternoons when you show up and do the work, not because you're inspired, but because you said you would. The nights when you choose discipline over distraction. It's these moments, repeated consistently, that quietly shape your future. We live in a culture that glorifies intensity, the all-nighters, the motivational sprints, the big dramatic life changes. But intensity fades, it burns fast, and when it dies, it leaves you empty. Consistency, on the other hand, is like a slow-burning flame. It doesn't demand your soul all at once. It just asks for a little of your effort, every day. The Stoics weren't chasing fireworks. They practiced something far more sustainable: rhythm, daily habits rooted in reason. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to impress, he wrote to remember. He knew that philosophy, like life, is only useful if it becomes part of your daily system. Not once a year, not when things fall apart, but every single day. You don't become strong by doing 100 push-ups once. You become strong by doing 10 every day. You don't become wise by reading 10 books in 1 week. You become wise by reflecting on one good idea every day and living it. It's the accumulation that matters. And here's what most people miss. Small wins aren't just tasks, they're signals. Every time you choose the harder path, even in the tiniest way, you're sending a message to yourself. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who chooses growth. I am someone who moves, no matter how small the step. That message is powerful because it builds identity. And once you start identifying as someone consistent, everything changes. You no longer rely on willpower alone. You rely on who you've trained yourself to be. Think of it like this. Every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. One vote doesn't decide the outcome, but over time the votes add up, and the more consistent your votes, the more certain the result. So when you wake up tomorrow and don't feel like doing the hard thing, do a small version of it. Just a little. 5 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of writing, one decision made with clarity instead of emotion. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to happen. Over and over. Seneca reminded us that time, like a river, doesn't stop. You can't pause life, but you can choose how you show up in it and how you use each passing moment. You can choose to build something meaningful out of the ordinary, because that's where real excellence lives, not in noise, but in quiet dedication. So forget the fantasy of overnight change. Forget the need for perfect conditions. Focus on what you can win today, and win it. Not to impress anyone, not to chase a feeling, but to cast one more vote for the version of you that doesn't quit. That's how you build something unshakable, one small, intentional step at a time. You are the only one responsible for your life. It's one of the hardest truths to accept, but also one of the most liberating. No one is coming to save you. Not fate, not luck, not motivation, not some magical breakthrough. If your life is going to change, it's going to be because you decided to change it. Period. That might sound harsh, especially if life hasn't been fair to you. Maybe you were dealt a difficult hand. Maybe others had more support, more resources, more opportunities. But here's what the Stoics understood better than most. While we cannot control the starting point, we always control our response. Epictetus, born a slave, said it plainly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And this is where power begins. Not in wishing things were different, but in owning what's in front of you fully, without excuses. The modern world gives us endless ways to deflect responsibility. We blame our past, our parents, the economy, the algorithm, but none of those things can live your life for you. And the longer you wait for external forces to change, the more powerless you become. Responsibility doesn't mean self-blame. It doesn't mean you caused every problem. It means you are the one who must rise above it. No one else can want it for you. No one else can walk in your shoes, and no one else can suffer the consequences of your choices. But once you own that, truly own it, everything changes. You stop waiting. You stop complaining. You stop negotiating with your potential, because now you see clearly, this is your life, and no one's coming to write it for you. It's easy to fall into the illusion that someone will notice your struggle and give you a shortcut, that someone will pull you from the depths and hand you the life you've imagined. But life doesn't work like that. What it does reward, slowly, quietly, and consistently, is personal responsibility. The decision to stand up when it would be easier to lie down. The decision to move forward even when no one is clapping for you. Responsibility is not a burden, it's a weapon. Once you stop blaming and start building, you become unstoppable. You no longer wait for good days, you create them. You don't need to feel lucky, because you've learned how to lead yourself. So ask yourself, where are you still waiting? Where are you giving your power away? Who are you silently expecting to fix what only you can fix? Take that back, all of it, because no one owes you anything. But that's not the bad news. That's the beginning of your freedom, because when nothing is owed, everything is earned. And when everything is earned, everything becomes possible. You are the author, you are the builder, you are the only one responsible for the life you're living and the life you're becoming. You don't need motivation, you need momentum. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we need to feel ready before we begin. That motivation is the fuel, and until it shows up, we're justified in standing still. But if you've waited long enough, you've already learned the hard truth. Motivation is unreliable. It fades. It disappears when you need it most. And if your life depends on how you feel, you'll never get far. That's why Stoicism doesn't put much weight on emotion. It puts weight on action. Epictetus didn't say, "Speak about your values." He said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Because what you do matters infinitely more than what you intend. The real force that changes lives is not motivation, it's momentum, movement, no matter how small, a single step forward, because once you're in motion, clarity follows, confidence grows, direction reveals itself. Think about a car stuck in mud. It doesn't get out by waiting for the rain to stop. It gets out by rocking forward, inch by inch, until there's just enough movement to break free. Your life is no different. Stagnation breeds doubt. But motion, even sloppy, imperfect motion, it breeds hope. It changes your relationship with yourself. But here's the challenge. Starting is often the hardest part. That's where most people lose. Not because they can't do the work, but because they never get past the resistance. They overthink, they overplan. They wait for the right time, the right mood, the right everything. And while they wait, their momentum dies before it even begins. This is why small action is powerful, not because it solves everything in one day, but because it flips the switch. It interrupts the loop of hesitation. It turns thinking into doing, and that shift, even if it's tiny, is enough to begin changing your life. You don't need to feel amazing. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. Write one line, stretch for 2 minutes, clean one corner of the room, make one call, take one hard breath and do one hard thing. That's it. And once you do, everything starts to shift. Momentum has a way of pulling you forward. The hardest day is never the 10th, it's the first. But once you've proven to yourself that you can begin without waiting for perfect conditions, you unlock something that most people never find: trust in your own ability to act. You stop asking for permission from the world, from your past, from your inner critic. You act because action is who you are now, not because it's easy, but because you no longer let feeling dictate direction. So next time you feel unmotivated, don't look for a spark, be the spark. Don't wait to feel inspired, do something that creates inspiration. And don't wait for momentum, start building it, one imperfect step at a time. Because discipline doesn't need permission, and momentum doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who move. Don't negotiate with your inner weakness. There's a conversation you have with yourself almost every day, a silent, subtle negotiation. You hear a voice that says, "Just 5 more minutes. You've done enough. Take it easy today." And that voice doesn't shout. It whispers. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like it has your best interest in mind. But it doesn't. That voice is not your protector. It's your limiter. It's the part of you that fears growth, that craves comfort, that avoids discomfort at all costs. And if you listen to it long enough, it becomes your commander. But here's the truth. Discipline doesn't negotiate. It doesn't have discussions with weakness. It doesn't ask how you feel about doing the hard thing. It just does it. The Stoics understood that the battle for self-mastery is internal, always. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That includes your impulses, your excuses, your patterns of delay. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who decides whether to obey them. Every time you hesitate, every time you consider skipping, delaying, avoiding, you're opening the door to that weaker voice. And every time you do, it gets louder, it grows more convincing, it starts to run the show. That's why discipline must become non-negotiable, not just in the big things, but in the small ones. Get up when your alarm rings. Start the task when you said you would. Stop explaining to yourself why you need more time. The more you act without debate, the stronger your identity becomes. Think of it like this. Inside you, there are two voices. One seeks progress, the other seeks comfort. And every decision is a vote. Not for what you want right now, but for who you're becoming long-term. Negotiation is the death of momentum. It's the seed of regret, and it almost always ends in surrender. But when you remove the option to debate, when the decision to act becomes automatic, everything changes. You free up energy, you gain clarity, you move. And the beauty is, the more you act decisively, the quieter that weaker voice becomes, because it only survives on your attention. Starve it, and it fades. Feed discipline, and it thrives. So next time you feel that internal debate beginning, stop it. Don't engage, don't argue, just act. Let your actions speak the language your excuses can't answer. You are not here to live at the mercy of your moods. You are here to lead yourself, firmly, consistently, and without negotiation. Time is your only non-renewable resource. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose opportunities and find new ones. You can fail in front of the world and rise again with a better plan. But there's one thing that never returns once it slips away. Time. Time is the quiet currency of life. It doesn't scream when you waste it. It doesn't remind you how much you've spent. It just moves, 1 second at a time, forward, never backward. And the danger is this. Because it moves quietly, most people don't notice it leaving until it's gone. Seneca, one of the most practical Stoics, warned us centuries ago. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. It's not the clock that betrays us, it's our choices. We think we're managing our time, but often it's managing us. You scroll for 10 minutes, it becomes 30. You delay the hard task, it becomes another day lost. You say, just this once, and that one moment of distraction becomes a pattern. These aren't small things, they're how entire years disappear. And the tragedy is that most people only realize the value of time when it's running out, when the chances are gone, when the moments can't be recreated, when they wish they could go back and do things differently, but can't. But you still have now. You still have this moment, and that's all you need to change everything. The Stoics taught that awareness of time is not meant to create panic. It's meant to create urgency, not chaos, not fear, but clarity. When you understand that time is not promised, your priorities become sharper. You stop tolerating what drains you. You stop waiting for later, because later is a luxury the future doesn't guarantee. Look around you. How much of your life right now is filled with things that don't matter? Conversations that go nowhere, habits that numb you, distractions that steal your peace. What if even half that time was redirected toward growth, connection, creativity, health, mastery? It's not that you need more hours, you need better use of the ones you already have, because when you stop wasting time, you stop wasting life. And here's the beautiful part. Time well used compounds. One focused hour today leads to a better tomorrow. One meaningful conversation, one deep practice, one courageous decision. Time is not just slipping, it's offering you a chance to make something worthwhile before it's gone. So don't wait for a wake-up call. Make time sacred now. Track it, protect it, honor it, because when your time becomes non-negotiable, your life begins to transform. Time is not just something you spend, it's something you become. The world owes you nothing. Earn everything. There's a dangerous belief quietly spreading through the modern world, the idea that life owes you something, that because you've worked hard, or suffered enough, or waited patiently, you're now entitled to success, recognition, or ease. But nature doesn't operate on fairness, and neither does life. The world isn't against you, but it isn't designed to reward your expectations either. You are not owed clarity, you are not owed comfort, you are not owed applause for simply wanting more. What you get in life is not based on what you deserve, it's based on what you earn, and that difference changes everything. The Stoics never wasted time complaining about what should have been. They focused entirely on what is, and how to respond with excellence, regardless of circumstance. They knew that no amount of frustration, envy, or disappointment could replace real work. You either do what it takes, or you don't. The moment you believe you're owed something, you stop reaching, you stop growing, you wait. And waiting turns into bitterness. But when you release that illusion, when you say, nothing is owed, but everything can be earned, you reclaim your power. This doesn't mean your struggle doesn't matter. It means your struggle isn't currency. It's training. And if you use it wisely, it can shape you into someone capable of more, not someone dependent on reward. Look around. The people who rise aren't the ones with perfect conditions. They're the ones who build despite the odds, who refuse to let entitlement rot their effort, who keep going even when no one notices, especially when no one notices. And that's the part most people miss. The grind in silence, the work without recognition, the pursuit without guarantees. But it's in those moments that strength is born, quietly, honestly, without applause. You want success? Earn it. You want peace? Build it. You want to be respected? Live in a way that commands it, not through words, but through integrity, through consistency, through ownership of every result you produce, good or bad. Stop asking why it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's what makes it meaningful. Ease is the path of the entitled. Effort is the path of the free. So no, the world doesn't owe you anything, but you owe it to yourself not to waste what you've been given. A mind that can choose, a will that can act, and a life, still unfolding, that can become whatever you're willing to build. Earn it, every single day. So now you've heard the truth. Not sugar-coated, not diluted, but real. 12 lessons, 12 challenges, 12 mirrors showing you what you're capable of and what's been standing in your way. No, it's not the world. It's not your past. It's not your lack of time or motivation or support. It's the voice inside, the one that hesitates, that delays, that negotiates. But the other voice, the one you've been ignoring, the one that says, get up, begin, keep going. That voice is still there, and today, it's waiting for a decision. You don't need another episode. You don't need another quote. What you need is movement. Take one step. Take it today, not because you feel ready, but because you're done waiting. And when you do, when you act without excuse, when you move without needing permission, that's when everything changes. You won't need to chase discipline anymore. You'll become it. So, get up and get it done.